Chapter 4, Lesson 4, Solving Equations by Multiplying or Dividing. All right, now we talked about the goal of our equation, how we get there, but the most important rule to remember when we are solving equations is what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. And remember, when we're talking about sides, we're talking about the equal sign. So we have one side over here, and we have one side over here. So that's what we mean when we talk about sides, is the sides of the equal sign. Now, we're going to start getting into a little bit more complex equations. So one thing to remember is that when we say, what do we do, what's the opposite, and when we say in our head we're going to divide by 3/4 or we're going to divide by 2/5, instead of dividing by a fraction in equations, we want to make it a little bit more simple. And we know that dividing by a fraction, because of keep, flip, change, tells us that we are really going to multiply by the reciprocal. So that's what we're going to do to both sides to get rid of a fraction that's being multiplied by our variable. We're not going to divide by the fraction, but we're going to multiply by its reciprocal. Now, as we get into a little bit more complex equations, one thing that we need to remember before we begin solving is we always must simplify first. So if we have on the same side of the equal sign two like terms, we want to go ahead and simplify them and put them together. But sometimes they're going to be on opposite sides, and we'll get into that later. So let's look at some examples. We have 64 equals negative 8x. So we have, okay, what's my variable? X. What's happening to it? I'm multiplying by negative 8. What's the opposite? Divide by negative 8. In equations, we always use division as a fraction bar. And then I say, okay, my equal sign comes down. 64 divided by negative 8 is negative 8. And these negative 8's cancel, and we're left with just an x. All right, over here we have 5/8 equals negative 1/2 m. So we say, okay, my variable's m. What's happening to it? I'm multiplying by negative 1/2. What's the opposite? I'm going to multiply by its reciprocal. So negative 2/1 by negative 2/1. These cancel. They really just make a 1, so we have 1m. And then 5/8 times negative 2/1, I can cross simplify, and I get negative 5/4, or you could write your answer as negative 1 1/4. And our last example, we have 5p minus 2p equals negative 12. Remember, simplify, simplify, simplify. This 5p and negative 2p are on the same side. I can put them together to make 3p equals negative 12. My variable is p. It's being multiplied by 3. The opposite is divide by 3. My 3's create a 1, so I have 1p, or just p, and negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. Now remember, we can check these. I can check this the same way. Plug in negative 4 into my equation and make sure that it works. So I have 5 times negative 4 is negative 20, minus 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, equals negative 12. Add the opposite, negative 20 plus 8 is negative 12, and that does equal negative 12. All right, so that tells me I did it correct.